these start joining. I can see people coming in now. That's great. We had some slight technical issues, so apologies for the delay. Great. I can see the audience members coming in now. Excellent. Yep, great to see lots of people from lots of parts of the world joining us. So welcome everyone. My name is Lewis Jackson. I'm one of the senior marketing and recruitment officers in our MBA marketing recruitment team here at Alliance Manchester Business School. Welcome to our MBA masterclass, which is hosted by Jenni Rose, who I will shortly let her introduce herself to you all. Just before we start the session, you'll notice that all the audience is muted with their cameras off, and this is purely to reduce background noise. This is going to be a highly interactive session. So Jenni will be prompting you and asking you to type things in, and if you can use the question and answer function when those interactions happen. Now, initially, this session was aimed at MBA prospective students who are thinking about studying in Manchester. But because this session is so interesting and so fascinating, we have opened it up to all of our kind of global campuses as well. So following today, myself, and I'm also joined by my colleague Rupert, who's in the marketing MBA team as well. We will be following up with everyone and directing you to your own kind of campuses if you're looking at the part-time study. So don't worry in terms of like admissions or anything like that. We will be following up after today's session. But I won't take too much of Jenni's time because I could probably speak for the whole hour. So I'm going to pass over to Jenni now.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lewis. And thank you everyone for joining us. It's really nice to see you turning up on a Thursday lunch in Manchester. It's quite rainy and cold today. So nice to be in here and talking about why AI won't be taking your job. I hear a lot of scaremongering on the media and with my colleagues as well about the role that AI has, and the fact that they're quite worried. A lot of people are probably rightly quite worried about AI taking the job. But I have some solutions up my sleeve. I'm not saying that AI won't be taking all jobs. I'm just saying that there's ways that you can think about your job and the ways that you can craft your job to make sure that AI can't take it. But before we go into that, so a little bit about me. My name is Jenni Rose. I teach on the full-time MBA here at Manchester. My background is as an accountant, and I teach the accounting module. We do quite a lot of simulated gamification of running a business to see how those numbers impact the business. And initially, when I was going to do this talk, I was going to really focus in on accountants. So why I don't think the role of accountancy is going to be lost to AI. And you'll see some of the reasons as we go through later on. But then on reflecting on the role of accountants, actually, there's a lot of jobs that might seem that in a similar way that they would be taken over by AI, that they could be lost, that there's these roles are going to disappear. But actually, I don't think that's the case. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Please do use that question and answer function. I'm a very dialogic teacher. So I really like responding and questions and seeing what your thoughts are and those interactions. So this webinar format's fairly difficult for me. So please do use the question answer. And in a minute, I'm going to share a QR code with you, which you can use to connect to what's called a Padlet to get your answers to come up. And let's see us sharing a few ideas. But before we go into that, I'd like to show you a video. I put this full screen. Can you see that video? I'm assuming you can see the video. Let's go for it. So quite it's kind of scary video that I've seen on the internet, which is seeming to show an AI robot taking these ping pong shots. Actually, that motion of being able to walk like that and move like that is very, very difficult to robots to emulate. So when I first saw this, I thought, actually, that is quite scary, how far and how quickly we've come in AI. Within a relatively short period of time. For me as an academic, we only really started hearing about ChatGPT and large language models just last No, maybe 2022, ready for the December exams and the January exams last year. And it was quite a scary thought that the exams that we set could be completed by large language models, and things have moved on really, really quickly. But that doesn't mean that AI is going to take your job, unless you're a ping pong professional, according to that video. So as I said at the beginning, my name is Jenni Rose, and I think one of the reasons I talk about this quite a lot is I'm doing some research into how our perceptions of how AI is changing our jobs. And as part of that, I was asked to go on to GMTV. So this is me on GMTV. I thought I was wearing the same jumper, but it's okay. It's a different jumper. I'm in the same room as I was on this picture. And this is me talking to Richard Maley and Suzanne Reid, and I can't remember the name of the guy from Sussex, who were all arguing really that the age of assessment is dead, that AI is killing off all kind of creativity and intellectual development. It's killing off the ability of our students and children to develop, and it's going to take all our jobs. But actually, we can use AI in a much more clever way than this, and that's what I was arguing on when I spoke on ITV. So before I start any kind of teaching session, always start with a tuning in, a bit of a grabber to get you interested, seeing that robot doing playing ping pong so fantastically, a little bit about me, and then a tuning in. So what I'd like you to do is put your feet flat on the floor and your hands somewhere that's comfortable, and do a big breath in and a big breath out. So I'm hoping to change your mind a little bit about what AI does and how you can reframe your job to show how AI won't be capturing what you do. So we're going to first of all think about what AI does, think what it can't do, and then the key bit of today, the transformational bit of this teaching, is how you can craft your role to make sure AI isn't going to take your job. So on the screen now, you should see 3 giraffes. Giraffes are my favorite animal, so I use them a lot. And usually when giraffes come up when I'm teaching, then it means I want you to talk to each other. We can't quite talk to each other today. So what I'd like you to do is scan the QR code that you can see. So you can use a mobile to do this. And you should be able to connect to what's called a Padlet. And I can see on my screen the dots at the top show me that some of you are able to do that, which is always where I breathe a big sigh of relief as a teacher that the technology has connected you through. So if you can scan that QR code, you will see a green Padlet in front of you. A Padlet's like a sticky board where you can stick on Post-it notes virtually, and you stick those on by clicking on the plus in the bottom right-hand corner, or the plus under each of the columns. We're going to work through these 4 columns over the next 25-30 minutes we've got together. So in the first column, could you click on the plus and add in what do you do? So just filling out that first column. You don't need to identify yourself at all. This is completely anonymous. But how would you describe what you do in that first column? So if you click on the plus, you should be able to add to this Padlet and it'll pop up for everyone explaining what you do. So what I do, I'm a lecturer at the University of Manchester. I teach on undergraduates and MBA programs. But what I really do is connecting people. So I connect people to each other. I connect theory and practice. And I connect people to their inner thoughts and their inner dialogue by making that explicit. I've got some fantastic range of professions here: apprenticeship leads, IT and data analytics, code writing, finance director. Excellent. We've got some good finance people in here. Pharmacy purchasing, digital platform developer, interesting marketing and recruitment, human rights researcher. Wow, what a range. This is what I love about MBA and MBA teaching in particular, is because of the really rich diversity of backgrounds that come together and share their thoughts. So keep adding in. I've got an audit manager, fantastic. I trained at KPMG and I also worked in audit. So good to see you here as well. Finance director, partnerships, coordinator in public, connect with various stakeholders. Interesting. Okay, so I think I've captured a lot. You've captured a lot of your jobs there about sharing what you do. What I'd like to do, so the same QR code, same sheet here, I would like you to fill out the second column for me then. So give me your thoughts on what you think AI can do. So when you read these Daily Mail headlines about AI wins ping pong competitions, defeats somebody at chess, Can you add to that column your thoughts on what you think AI can do from what you've seen? So what could AI do? What are the kind of tasks that it's really good at? Write reports. Yeah, so I've seen some writing. I've definitely seen some writing from students, which has been written by AI. I would dispute that a little bit. And some of the assessments that I set include report writing. And whilst it can write some of the text, it can't get the kind of layout that I'm looking for. So I find quite a lot of my assessments, because they're quite authentic and what real people are doing, are often quite AI proof. So write reports, I'm debating, but I would love to discuss with you. I see the next one says help structure thoughts and puts together baseline plans and initial ideas. Yes, I think that's what the large language models are really, really good at. Structuring thoughts, putting together those plans, giving those initial ideas. You can ask it for 10 different iterations and you can pick out the best from those. It can generate code to solve problems. Definitely, I've seen that as well. Daily routine jobs more effective. Absolutely. So in the early 1900s, there was quite a lot of reports that said because technology is advancing so fast, then we're only going to have to work 3 or 4 days a week when it gets to 2020. Sadly, that hasn't happened. I think there probably are less jobs and we're still all working 5 or 6 days a week. But wouldn't it be nice if AI could automate those routine jobs, make them more effective, and we could all go down to a 3 or 4 day working a week, obviously on the same salary. Basic translation, yeah, it's not too bad at translation. My daughter's learning French at GCSE at the moment, and finding some of it's really that ChatGPT and Google Translate are really useful for that basic translation, so she can understand the basics of what's been said. But what it doesn't do is show the meaning behind things, so often gets it wrong. Produce images, yes. I've seen some very strange images, but the Willy Wonka experience in Leeds, not Leeds, Glasgow, I've seen reports about that this week, as a fantastic example of how good AI is at producing images, whether or not they reflect reality or not. Videos with plots, excellent. Low skill jobs, yeah, transportation, cargo movements, customer facing service roles. I definitely see that the automation of cars, I find that really fascinating. I find it quite scary, the decisions then automated vehicle AI driver would make. For example, I read a really interesting article around the ethics around that. So an AI-driven vehicle would automatically calculate the odds of injuring the person if there was somebody in the road versus injuring the person in the car, and work out the least overall injury. And it would make the decision as to whether to crash the car or run over the person based on those probabilities. But that decision isn't really a decision that's necessarily should be fully based in data. So those ethical decisions, whilst it can analyze the data and the probabilities, does that really reflect what should happen or the best course of action? Not necessarily. So I find AI autonomous vehicles really fascinating. What else? I've lost where I'm up to. Where am I up to? Local information organization statistics. Yeah. Generate a photo or a video. Yes. Safety moment generator. Oh, I like that. Could you give me some more details? That's really interesting. Scan lots of data and present it anyway, definitely. Medical diagnosis, yeah. So it's starting to be able to go through the same kind of process a GP might go through. Play chess, healthcare, assimilate large data sets, definitely. Accounting information at low, plans, forecast based on historical data. Language translation saves time. Redefine emails. Yes, that's a great use that I have for it. Automate admin. Travel itinerary planning. Yes. Earlier initial drafts and promoting a specific product for a targeted customer. That's absolutely fantastic. And many of those points that you have come up with there are similar to the ones that I've got here. So keep putting down a list of all those things that you've seen AI can do. It's very, very good at pattern recognition. So some of those tasks that you're talking about, taking large amounts of data, finding the patterns, is really good at that. Automation, so those basic repeated tasks, very good at those. Data analysis, all that's come up already. And we've already talked about natural language processing. Predictive analysis, that's another area that you've mentioned here. It is good at predicting the future, using probability, not really using instinct, because it hasn't got instinct, but using probability, it can do that predictive analysis. I find it's very good at personalization. So I encourage students to use it to identify gaps in their knowledge. Actually, the large language models are very good at asking you questions. So I'll ask students to ask the ChatGPT or similar to ask them questions around accounting or finance or sustainability reporting to check their understanding. So it's very good at personalizing learning by asking you questions. Same with reflections. I get students to do reflective activities, and AI can generate the questions for the reflection. And they can also teach you how to learn something. So if you wanted to learn how to do coding, you could say, please ask me some questions one at a time that guide me into how to learn to code. So asking AI to ask you questions is really powerful and can really personalize your learning. Gaming, yes, of course, you could always be able to play against the computer. We play a game called Worms, which is where little worms fire weapons at each other, and you can play against the computer. And it always fascinates me when you see the computer missing, because obviously it doesn't need to miss, it can get it exactly right. But to kind of emulate another player, it can copy the similar actions when it comes to gaming. Autonomous vehicles we've talked about already, and fraud detection. So actually AI can be quite good at fraud detection. It can't really do the looking somebody in the eye to see if they're telling the truth. I don't think it would do very well on a program like Traitors we have in the UK, where you're trying to identify if people are lying or not. But it is good at that mass processing of data to try and detect fraud. Superb. So I think there's lots of things that AI can do. There's no doubt about this. And that's why it makes such a good headline that AI is going to take your job. However, what can AI not do? Let's try the next column now. So going through these 4 columns, there's a same QR code again. So you can just stay on our Padlet page. And if you can add in, what do you think AI could not do? What is it not very good at? Oh, I've just had a fantastic point in the question answer, is they just need to make fewer mistakes than humans. Yeah, I think obviously the element of human error is taken out of quite a lot of AI processing. Read emotions, yes. AI can technically read micro expressions and try and work out emotions, but that kind of whole feeling, and emotions aren't necessarily single items. So I do some training in emotional intelligence through the charity CABA, Chartered Accountants Benevolent Association, and I run their sessions on emotional intelligence and how to read emotions. And you can teach the technicalities, and AI can learn the technicalities, but that overall, how is the person in front of you feeling? Can't really do that. Read minds or understand human interactions and decision making. Yes. So AI can make decisions based on large amount of data and probability, but sometimes that's not the essence of the decision. Ethical decisions, exactly like the autonomous vehicles one. Empathy and human interaction, yes. So my 10-year-old is communicating a lot. He really likes being able to talk on ChatGPT. Feels like he's got a friend, or he talks to Alexa. But actually, it's just emulating that human interaction, and it doesn't have that same sense of satisfaction. He can't go to jail for manipulation of accounts. Yes, that's true. And that's another thing I found fascinating about the example of the AI driver in a car. So who's responsible for that decision? But yeah, AI can't go to jail, can't be held responsible. Lead people, yeah. Motivate and lead people in a certain direction. AI is actually quite bad at that. Read between the lines and translating a sentence, yes. So another set of teaching that I do is all around burnout and preventing burnout. So there's a lot of work around Amelia and Emily Nagoski that I focus on. And the whole essence of their work is that preventing burnout is all about us looking after each other. Now, AI can summarize all the research, but it doesn't really get that essence out, that what it's really all about is us looking after each other, not doing all these self-care things. And that essence of the message is missed by AI. Innovations, yeah, it's not very good at innovating, that creativity side of things. It's just emulating human interactions. It's just emulating from what it sees on the internet. And what is quite frightening to me about things like large language models is not that they replace them, but that they're unchallenged. So when some of my students will read things from ChatGPT, they'll assume they're correct. And they are based on Wikipedia, they are based on Twitter, so they're highly biased and they're not always reflecting truth or peer-reviewed truth. They're not very good at critical analysis or even critical ignoring. That's a key skill that AI doesn't have. It can't ignore a set of data because it doesn't weigh the data in the way a human would. Predicting motives, encouraging people, definitely. Perform medical procedures. Yeah, we've got a bit of hybrid in that, but it'd be interesting to see if that develops. But some of that, so there's definitely some medical procedures that AI could never do because we're not robots. We're not all the same. Clear capture questions, yes. That's a really good point. Multimodal interactions, definitely. Identify it's ethical or not, yes. Decisions. There's nothing AI can't do. Interesting. Sarcasm, absolutely, and morality. Yeah. So really interesting. Predict whether Ukraine or Russia will win. Yeah, it can give you probabilities and chances, but doesn't actually know the future. It just appears to know the future, very much so. So yeah, a lot of the things that you've written are similar to what I have here. So we've already talked about most of these, actually, I think. Yeah, the one I want to emphasize really is that critical ignoring. So AI is unable to ignore a set of data because it doesn't feel right. It doesn't have judgment to be able to evaluate data. And that's what we bring as humans. Adaptability is adaptable in some ways, and it's trying to adapt to your way of doing things to emulate adaptability. But I would say that at the moment, certainly it's not that adaptable. It's those things that don't tend to be easily measured. So your emotional intelligence, your complex problem solving, innovation and creativity, these are all elements that AI can't do, or certainly can't do yet. So what you need to do when you talk about what you do, which you've said at the beginning of the session here, is think about what do you do that AI cannot do? And that idea of changing the way you talk about your job is called job crafting. So this idea of job crafting was from the early 2000s. So it's fairly old theory. And it was prior to a lot of the age around, it was post-internet, but prior to a lot of the age around AI and AI being such a threat to jobs. And it was basically to think about how jobs can be crafted. And a lot of you will probably work in the kind of jobs that are high-end knowledge jobs. And therefore, you probably have a considerable degree of autonomy and allowing you to do your work and craft your job in the way that you want to. But even if you end up with a very little autonomy, there are things you can do to craft your job away from what AI can do, which is our second column here, into what AI cannot do. And it's that job crafting, it's talking about your job in a different way and thinking about your job in a different way to be more in that third column, what AI cannot do, and then AI can't take your job. So even if you don't feel like you have much autonomy, I'm going to tell you a story which is from job crafting. It's from this paper, actually, about two individuals who didn't really have very much autonomy in what they did, but they still did job crafting. So there's two different cleaners in a hospital that were interviewed as part of this research. One cleaner was just there. She worked the shift that she had to do. She cleaned what she had to do and then went home. Generally fairly unsatisfied, quite a low skill job, you might say, and not getting much job satisfaction from it. But the second cleaner was the really inspiring one that inspired a lot of the work around job crafting. And she really saw her job very differently. It was important to her that her strength was connecting to people, and talking to people and helping people feel better. So you think, why would she take a job as a hospital cleaner? But what she used to do is she used to change her pattern of her cleaning, her rota, where the direction she'd go in, the rooms that she'd clean and the order that she cleaned them in, to make sure she focused on those people that were either very, very poorly or the ones that didn't have very many visitors. So she crafted her job as a cleaner to play to her strengths of connecting to people. And she thought about her job not as getting rid of germs or putting as much disinfectant down as she could, but as creating an environment which was both clean and friendly by being able to talk to people. So playing on that strength, thinking about her job differently, thinking her job as a comforter who also cleans rather than a cleaner who might interact with other people. So playing to her strengths, thinking about who she interacted with, which was the patient she wanted to interact with, and how she thought about her job. So she gained immense job satisfaction by thinking about her job in terms of how she brought such light and joy and connection to people that were quite isolated in hospital. So from this research, there's a couple of other examples which are really interesting in that paper. And it's all, fundamentally, this is about resourcefulness. It's about seeing those opportunities to craft your job to be slightly different, to change the meaning and the satisfaction of your job. But I would encourage you to apply these kind of theories to what you do so that you're crafting more towards what can AI not do. So there's 3 different ways that you can do this. The first is task crafting. So it's thinking about the actual tasks that you do. And yes, some of those tasks could be performed by AI, and with a bit of, well, it would be lovely to think that we could all work 3 or 4 days a week. In reality, we'll probably just have to do more with less. But thinking about the tasks that you do, and what is it about those tasks that plays to your strengths, that's what AI cannot do. So thinking about the things that you do that AI can't, thinking about where you are using morality, using judgment, using emotions, reading people's minds, making those decisions. Think about where you're leading people. What else have we got in here? Thinking about when you're motivating and being innovative and creative. So those kind of tasks. And whichever of those kind of tasks appeals to you the most, can you try and craft your job so you become the go-to person when there's a team that needs motivating? Or you become the go-to person when you've got a distressed person that you want to connect to and bring into the team? Or could you become the go-to person for creativity and innovation? Really good point. Interpret people's needs and apply sound judgment to create solutions that not drive the direct problem, but create a better process. Exactly. So you're reframing what you do, the tasks that you do. So you're more in that third column in terms of your strengths, and you can describe what you do in a different way. And I'm going to ask you all to do this in a few minutes. So the first thing is task crafting. So it's crafting the tasks that you do within your job to make sure they're drawing on those strengths and the strengths that you have that AI cannot do. The second is relational crafting. So it's how you interact with other people. So it's whether you interact with people. You might be the kind of person that prefers to interact with people online or face to face, and it's leveraging those kind of relationships. Are you a really good person to put in front of an angry customer or an angry client? Or are you better at interacting with the people in your team, having a really close, tight-knit team that you really understand each other and that you can work really well? Maybe that's where your strengths lie. So it's the task and the people that you're interacting in terms of your job. And then the third and final way, actually, what I think is the most powerful way of crafting your job is cognitive crafting. So it's the way you think about your job. So our cleaner in the hospital really thought about her job as a comforter of people that are dying. And there's such an important role for job satisfaction. So what do you do in your job? How can you think differently about your job that turns into this kind of creative, this innovative, this ability to connect people and draw on emotional intelligence to craft your job? So I am going to ask you to think about what you do in a few minutes, how you could describe what you do. I do have a few questions if you're still a little bit stuck. So if you're thinking about how you describe what you do, you've got these 3 questions on the screen. What are your strengths? What do you enjoy? And what does the world need? So some of this is about ikigai, which is the idea about overlapping what you're good at, what the world needs, but thinking about what it is about your job. What you're really good at? What are you known for? What do you like to do? And what does the world need? Because there's no doubt that the world needs beyond robots, beyond AI, beyond massive data analysis. What the world needs is that connection, that relationship building. And I've seen some great examples already here in this column, creating new ways of thinking that have not been done before. Fantastic. That's absolutely brilliant. So thinking about these questions, I want you to add into that fourth column, how would you describe what you do? So exactly the same question I asked you at the beginning, but not your job title, but what do you actually do? So when I talked about what I do, I talk about how I connect people and link theory and practice together. And I also try and help people connect to their inner dialogue with thoughts in their mind, thinking about things in a different way. So can you write in that fourth column, what do you do? What are you strong? What are you good at? What do you enjoy? What does the world need? Especially drawing on that column of what can AI not do. Oh, do you need the QR code again? Let's see if I can get it in a second. Here we go. So if you need the QR code again, you've got it up on the screen at the moment. So if you're describing what do you do, thinking about this idea of job crafting, thinking about what your strengths are, what you're good at, and what AI doesn't do, then what is it that you do? Oh, these are absolutely brilliant. What have we got here? I've got, oh, the first one was already in there. Interpret people's needs, apply sound judgment to create solutions that not only solve the direct problem, but create a better process. Brilliant. AI cannot do that. Your job is safe. You've got the AI, safe from AI stamp on that. Create new ways of thinking that have not been done before. Absolutely. Improve processes. Yeah, seeing that global view of processes. Relationship building. Fantastic. Improve understanding in the real life implications of human rights abuses. Absolutely brilliant. Exactly the job that AI cannot do. Connect finance to other departments in the building. Yeah, in the business, sorry. Trying to do that. Those connections can't be done by anyone else. It's what you've got. You bring to that uniquely. Bringing networks of people together, complementary aims and values. Fantastic. Help the business tell its success stories to stakeholders and partners. Absolutely brilliant. So that's you crafting the job that you do to move it away from what AI can make. There's some parts of it that AI can do, but there's a lot of it here and a lot of the way you can define your job, which is what AI cannot do. Connect people, but also different projects and business lines to get a better overall result. Fantastic. Use AI to support work to do things better. Absolutely. Understand the impact across different business functions, operations, and geographies. Create new opportunity for business by having relationships with each other. These are absolutely brilliant. And by describing what you do in this way, you make your job AI proof. Now, I asked AI itself, what will AI be taking my job? And it responded quite sarcastically, I thought, because it said AI can't do a job. AI just completes tasks which are set for it by humans. But actually I thought that's quite profound, really, because AI isn't going to be taking jobs. AI is going to be taking tasks. And therefore what you need to do in terms of your job is make sure your job is crafted towards those things that AI cannot do. And I've seen a few more answers. I'm going to read them out because these are really, really inspiring. Where are we up to? You improve the analysis of data to get accurate numbers. You identify leaks of money and interact with the department related to take actions. Brilliant. AI cannot do that. Your job is safe from AI. Critically review information from different perspectives, interact with persons to pull information from them, ignore irrelevant information, and find useful solutions where gaps exist. Completely AI proof. Brilliant. Understanding people's background and connecting people. Fantastic. So your jobs are AI. I'm pleased to tell you your jobs are AI proof. Now, just before I finish today, I just want to show you one more thing, because what I showed you at the beginning may have looked like a robot playing ping pong, but actually it was just emulated. And you can see it's emulated from this video here. So let me play you this. So in a minute, you will see where the emulation becomes really obvious. So you can see the guy at the front turning around in a second. There, that spin there, exactly the same as the eye, and the way that it walks off at the end. So you can see here that whilst it looked at the beginning that robots were playing an awesome ping pong game, actually, they're not there. They're just emulating humans. And it was AI used to create that video, and it's fascinating to see. But actually, at the end of the day, it's not AI doing anything, it's AI emulating humans. And I think what probably clinched it for you was the way that he walked off at the end, because he walks off in this nonchalant way. He knew that he'd won the game at that point, and it's that kind of expression of emotion which makes it fascinating to watch. And that expression of emotion is exactly what you can bring to your job if you craft your job in a way that moves it away from those things that AI can do and into those elements that AI cannot do, leveraging on your strengths and what you enjoy and what you're good at and what the world needs. So what I would encourage you to do after today is really think about what do you do and how you're going to answer that question to show how AI proof your job is. And that is why AI won't be taking your job. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Giving us a lot to reflect on there. And I genuinely think we should create a AI proof stamp. Your job is AI proof. We can get that facilitated. Thank you everyone so much for attending today. Thanks for making the session so interactive. Thank you again, Jenny. Really great session. As I mentioned at the start of today's sort of session, myself and our MBA marketing recruitment team will be reaching out to everyone that's attended today. That, you know, whether you're interested in our full-time MBA or our part-time programs, and like I mentioned, we did open this up to all of our campuses for the session, so we will be directing you to the right team that you need to speak to. And yeah, thank you again for attending, and we will also be sending a recording of today's session to everyone. So if you do want to, you know, watch back, you'll be able to do that. So thank you very much from the team here at Manchester, and have a great day. Thanks, everyone.